Welcome to Dream Chaser Radio.
Welcome back to another episode of the world famous Dream Chaser Show. I am your host, Will Lane, and the Dream Chaser Show is motivational conversation for regular people doing big things. Don't forget to check out the blog, dreamchasershow.com, by the way. So back again, I've been really dropping the ball on the podcast, man. My intention was to do a new podcast every week. I've been falling short of that. It's been more like every month or maybe sometimes every other month. And what I've been dealing with is, which I may have mentioned before, I'm in this entrepreneurial leadership program. It's a 2-year program. The first year is focused on creating teams and teamwork that produce powerful results in any situation. So the idea of the program is really to put so much on you that you really can't handle anything else. And in that process, what happens is your capacity to deal with more expands. Because we're all big people, but the stuff that we need to be doing to get where we want, a lot of times we resist it. You know you should be doing this, but I don't feel like doing that. Like, for example, perfect example. I didn't feel like doing a podcast today. Didn't feel like it at all, but it had been a little while. And what happens is the longer you drag things out a lot of times, the more likely you are to get away from it and never get back to it. So, I just pushed through. And I'll tell you, I also got this other thing about having everything be perfect. And what I've realized is that perfect slows you down. Perfect is slow, man. You gotta do something and you gotta do it over again because it's not right. Then you gotta do another take on it. To really get out here and produce, you just gotta put stuff out here, man. Just gotta put it out there and I ain't worry about what it looks like. You kind of, you'll learn along the way. So what I wanted to talk to you about today was a couple things that I picked up from being in this program. And I've picked up a ton. I tell you, it's been extremely difficult. On average, you figure it takes me, anywhere from 10, sometimes 20 hours a week out of my schedule. So that's a lot of time. And the first thing I've learned from being in the program is that being busy like this is actually better for me. I find that I actually get more done. And I didn't realize how much time I was actually wasting before. When I thought I was busy, but it obviously wasn't as busy as I am now. What I learned is you gotta put yourself in situations where you have to ask yourself questions that you wouldn't normally ask yourself. Like finding out what's really important to me. Like right now, since I don't have time for a whole lot of nonsense and BS, I don't have any choice but to focus on things that are important. So the last 8 months or so have really been eye-opening because they've actually showed me what's important, what's really important to me. And how do you figure out what's not important? It really doesn't get that much attention. It doesn't get any space in your life. And if you look at it, some of the most successful people are generally the busiest. Like a CEO of a major company. A lot of times he's on the board of various organizations. He may also run a nonprofit, the family. He's probably got a lot of stuff going on other than just running a company. It's because his capacity to take on more is bigger than the average person, which is why he's able to create the results that he's able to create. So the first thing is put yourself in situations, or at least I've learned, if I put myself in situations where I'm forced to grow, I have to ask myself questions that I wouldn't normally ask, which help me determine what's important and what's not important. So that's the first thing. Second thing is create an intention and outcome for everything you do. This is a big practice they teach us in the program. Is everything you do has to have an intention and an outcome. What do I mean by that? if you do something just for the sake of doing it, and you don't know what you're intending to do, you might know what you're intending to do, but you don't understand the outcome. And let me break that down a little further. For example, today, I'm doing this podcast. The intention of this podcast is to inspire people all over the world to think bigger, to do more, and be more. That's my intention. What is the outcome? Well, the outcome is that I create a worldwide brand of empowerment, which enables those who didn't think that a big life was possible for them, or didn't believe that their dreams were possible for them, would help those individuals see that something else bigger is out there and move into that. So I hope you followed that. Have an intention and an outcome for everything you do, because what I realized is a lot of things I was just doing to do, but I wasn't really putting that much thought behind it. You know, I knew what I wanted to create, I knew what the outcome was, but to actually say specifically, this is what you're doing and this is what it's going to create, is a lot more powerful, because it's a lot of power behind words. So the more thought you can give to an idea and the more words that you can give to it, the more likely it is to happen and the more likely you are to actually achieve your goal. I'll give you another example. It's like when you might maybe get up to speak in front of an audience. A lot of people, especially when they're doing presentations, they get caught up in the words. You know, what am I going to say? You know, remembering a speech or remembering, you know, a presentation. Where instead, a more powerful way to look at that is, what is your intention for your audience? What are you intending to create out of giving that talk? You know, the words are important, kind of know what you're talking about, but what do you intend to do? Because when you know your intention, the words just kind of flow out, you know, when you learn to trust yourself. And then what is the outcome? Well, the outcome is that, you know, you're going to have people that are more educated on whatever message you're trying to deliver. So I hope you guys got that. Simple concept, but very powerful. Don't sleep on it. Number 3, learn about different personality types. As I said, this program is like all about creating teams and teamwork. So you need a team to do anything big. If you're trying to do anything by yourself, and I may have said this in the past, but if you're trying to do anything by yourself, your dream probably isn't that big. There's only so much you can do with your own willpower. I was listening to a webinar with a marketer by the name of Mark Hoverson the other day. And he was saying that they looked at it, and the most someone can produce on their own is about 125,000, I think the figure was. It was like low 6 figures. That's the most somebody can actually produce on their own. Outside of that, you generally need a team, whether it's employees, team members, whatever the case is. But there's only so much you can do on your own. With that being said, if you're going to be dealing with people and creating teams, you got to understand the 4 different personality types. And it's important to understand different personality types, because before you can connect with anyone, you have to understand the conversation that individual is having with themselves. What I mean by that is that we all think differently. We all think in different ways. However, there's 4 dominant personality types. And I'll just skim over it briefly, and I'll go into this more in future podcasts. Your first personality type is a yellow. Yellow personalities are those individuals that are, we are the world, the kumbaya type. You know, they just want to make sure everybody else is taken care of. The focus isn't so much on themselves as it is taking care of other people. Kind of like if you're happy, they're happy. That sort of thing. And oftentimes they might get criticized for, you know, not being selfish enough. You know, a yellow personality will give you the last dollar, you know, because it makes them feel good to give. The next personality type is a green. Green personality, they're more of your analytical thinkers. They stay in their head a lot. Think accountant, chemist, someone good in science. maybe doctor. They like sitting down and figuring out things and really getting into their head and using their minds. Probably not as social as you might like, but very good thinkers. Very, what you would call the smart guys, the nerds maybe. So that's your green personality. Next you have your blues. Blue personalities are the life of the party. They're the ones who like to go out, have fun, dance. They're the ones on the floor at the club, getting it in. And your blues, anything that they do, they want to be having fun. So if you have anything that is not associated with fun, a lot of times it's hard to get a blue to sign up for that. You know, it's just about having fun. Life is short. Party hard. And then the last you have the red. Now your red personalities are a lot of your CEOs. You know, the very bottom line people. They're not into, a whole lot of conversation. They don't want to hear about your day. Maybe not so emotional. Emotionals, they tend to be kind of blocked off from their emotions. And they just want to know one thing: what happened? And what do we need to do to fix it? That's it. And they're very direct. They can be very direct, and they expect people to accept direct communication. So very bottom line people, and usually very flashy. They like for other people to know that they're important and they're successful in whatever they're doing. They're generally not big sleepers. You know, they're pretty much on the go all the time because they got things to do. They're trying to get ahead. Big achievers. So those are your 4 personality types: yellow, green, blue, and red. And it's important to keep in mind, as you may be thinking to yourself, well, which one am I? That we all have multiple colors. For example, I'm probably a mix between a green and a red. And I'm not quite sure which one I'm dominant. Definitely very analytical. Probably more dominant green, but definitely a lot of red in there. And see, once you have an understanding of how you can communicate with different individuals, what motivates them, what inspires them, what discourages them, you can build teams and teamwork more effectively with whatever you're doing. With the understanding that you're not necessarily going to want to have an organization which has a ton of yellow people in it. Because they're not going to want to get the job done. I mean, they're good because they're going to make sure everybody else is helped, but they're more likely to help a team member than they are to get their own job done. Same thing with the red. I mean, you can't have a team full of reds, probably very argumentative. Reds, don't mind to be direct and have, confrontation, not afraid of confrontation at all. And so, a whole bunch of reds is probably not going to work either. So understanding how to have, different personality sets and understanding sub-personality sets, very important with creating teams and teamwork. So the third thing is learn about different personality types. I thought that was huge. Number 4, put yourself in situations where resistance shows up a lot. Put yourself in situations where resistance shows up a lot. And this is big. Have you ever noticed that you'll meet somebody who's very successful and that person is successful before they actually even tell you? There's this language of success a lot of times. Like somebody who has generally, this is a general rule, achieved any great level of success, they've gone through a lot. They've paid a lot of dues. They've been willing to be uncomfortable longer than the average person, which is why they're successful. And by being uncomfortable for long periods of time, it actually gives you a comfort in most situations where, some people get uncomfortable. Like, for example, a social interaction for the first time, or being out networking. For some people, that's, some people get in their heads. They might walk into a room at a networking event or maybe a party, and they're trying to figure out, where do I fit in? How are the people responding to me? And worried about how they're perceived. Whereas someone that's successful, they really don't care. They've been in situations where they have to figure out how to pay the rent next month or how to make sure their employees get paid. So normal situations, which everyday people might have a little anxiety over, to them it's a walk in the park. And it conveys in their body language. They seem to be, very comfortable in their skin. And then also when you have a certain level of wealth, just anyway, that having that mindset creates, you're not as stressed out a lot of times anyway. Because let's be honest. Money is not everything, but it helps a lot. So comfort in your own skin will increase as you put yourself in a situation where resistance shows up a lot. An example of doing that could be, giving a presentation in front of a lot of people. Starting a networking group that could potentially fail. Taking on a position that maybe you're not ready for. Starting a new business. Putting a lot of money out there, not knowing if it's going to come back. Do the thing that you're afraid to do. And the last one is 5. Be your word. Be your word. Back in the day, a lot of old school cats, man, your word was everything. If you said you were going to do something, you did it. And that was just it. When you said you do something, it meant something. And what you'll find is, especially now, the word means nothing. Word isn't anything. My point is a lot of us spend time on trying to, get people to follow us or trying to motivate people to do something or gain influence. And what I've learned by being in this program is that the best way to influence people, the best way to motivate them, the best way to get influence, the best way to earn respect is to simply show up and do what you said you were going to do. That's it. If you say you want to make something happen, go ahead and make it happen, no matter what. See, because a lot of people, and I've talked about this, is a lot of people will be the word up until the point that it's convenient. Once it's no longer convenient, then excuses set in. And people won't respect a person, whether they're conscious of it or not. People will generally not respect someone who doesn't keep their word often. It's like if you committed to generating, maybe you're in sales. You committed to your manager to producing X amount of results by the end of the month. You got to make sure that happens. No matter what it takes. And that earns the respect. When people can continuously produce what they say they're going to produce, no matter what, that is what produces respect. So again, just to review. Number 1, put yourself in situations where you have to ask yourself tough questions. Number 2, create an intention and outcome for everything you do. Number 3, learn about different personality types. Number 4, put yourself in situations where resistance shows up a lot. And number 5 is be your word. Do what you say you're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all my time. Hopefully you learned something new or remember something you forgot. Either way, my job is done. Peace.